Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to this month's block of the month for My Decorative Quilter 2. As DJ said, this is block 8 of 12. We're calling it a decor block because it uses some of the built-in designs that we call decors in My Decorative Quilter 2. This block was designed for you by Rita Gazard and presented by myself. I'm Mark Garretts, a National Floriani educator. As I always like to do before we get started with the software and the construction details of this month's project, I like to show you a picture of what the finished block is going to look like so you know where we're headed as we go through the various steps and procedures. So this is what the block looks like. It's our basic block that we've been working with for the last 8 months. And in the center you see our decor pattern. That's actually 8 of the same decor pattern repeated around in a circle. And we're going to show you how to do all that stuff in the software section, which we're going to get to right now. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I'm going to bring up the quilting software. And when you start a project from scratch, normally what you'll do is click this icon right here, which is the new page icon. We're not going to do that. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing all along, and that is opening up the first month's basic block. We're going to do that by clicking our Open Design icon. You want to navigate to the November 2015 folder if that's where you stored it, and that will be in your C drive, Floriani Designs, MDQ Project, November, and then finally November 2015. And you should have both these blocks in there, but you want this one here, the basic block for BOM or block of the month, and you want the WAF version. So go ahead and select that and click Open, and that will bring that block into your design window. And now we're going to start adding our decor pattern to it. Before we do that, let's get our workspace set up so that we are all on the same page. You want to make sure that you're in inches mode, and you'll see that right here. If you're in millimeters, what you want to do is right-click on the ruler bar and change from metric to inches. You also at this point want to make sure that Show Grid is unchecked, Snap to Grid is unchecked. If you have Total Quilter, you'll also have Snap to Anchors, and you want to make sure that all those things are unchecked. So we're not showing a grid, and for this particular exercise, our grid settings don't matter, so we're not going to worry about them today. Just as long as you've got all those options unchecked, you'll be fine. So now we're going to begin by bringing in our decor. Your decors are located right here underneath this icon, and if you hover over it, you see it says decors. If I click on it, you will get a window that opens up showing you decors. Now, decors are embroidery designs, so these are stitches that are already pre-built into the software that you can use to decorate your quilt blocks, which is why we call them decors. We're going to use this one right here, FQD-FX003. We're going to click that, and that's going to bring it in. Now it's going to bring it in somewhere randomly on our screen. What you want to do is you want to leave it selected, and you want to hover over the top of it. And you can see as I get over the top of it, certain places my cursor changes into that little hand. This tells me now if I click and drag, I can move this decor. So I'm going to click and drag and move it kind of up into here. The exact place you move it doesn't really matter, but just somewhere in here around the center of the design. What we're going to do now is we're going to zoom into this so we can work on it. Now in the past, what we've been showing you how to do is click your magnifying glass or your zoom tool, drag a box around it, and zoom into around the area. But we're going to show you a way that we haven't shown you before, and that is using our zoom percentages dialog here. This has percentages in it. You can see right now mine's at 90%. Yours may be somewhere else. But when you click the little down arrow, you'll get some options, and you can pick percentages. You can click 1:1, which is the exact size. You can zoom in or out, zoom to fit, which fits everything on the screen. And remember, that's the same as a shortcut for double-clicking your magnifying glass. But we're going to use this one right here, zoom to selection. Since our decor is selected, that's going to zoom right in when I click on it to exactly what we want to work with, which is this decor. So that's a cute little shortcut that we've taught you in this webinar. We haven't shown you that before. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start modifying this decor. To do that, we're going to be using our sequence view quite a bit. Now, normally, I like to have my properties box and my sequence view visible at all times, and that's the way the software opens up by default. But since we're going to be working with a lot of items in the sequence view, it's a little bit small for our purposes today. So we're going to show you how to temporarily get rid of the properties box, which is going to automatically expand my sequence view so we can have some more space. So what you want to do is come over here and find this little X at the top of the properties box and click it. And when you do that, it's going to disappear and you're going to see a much bigger sequence view. All the rest of the items in our block are here, and the decor we just added is at the bottom. Right now, all of these are what we call collapsed. You can see all these little pluses here. These mean that these are not expanded, which is the opposite of collapse. So all the items here are collapsed. We want to expand this last one so we can see all the pieces and parts of it. So I do that by clicking on the little plus. You can see when I do that, it turns into a minus. And you can see all the pieces and parts. If I scroll down, we can fit all the pieces and parts of this flourish on the screen here, on the properties box. So we want to, first of all, work with this very first run. So I'm going to click it in the properties box to select it. And you can see this run is all the way through here, almost all the way to the end. This is actually part of the underlay that's underneath this, and we're going to modify that. Where we're headed with this, so we want the sequence to stitch out a little nicer for our purposes. If it was just a straight flourish and this is all we had, it would stitch out just fine. We wouldn't need to do this. But as we go along, you'll see why we're doing this. So once we have it selected, we want to modify the shape and the stitches here. And the way we do that is with our shape tool, and it's right over here. If we click it, you will see that this changes to a different view. You can see now I've got little square boxes. We call these nodes. We also call them points. Sometimes we call them anchors. So all three of those terms are interchangeable: points, nodes, and anchors. All the same thing. And we also have a red dot and a green dot. And the green dot is where our stitches would start. The red dot is where our stitches would end. And you can see as I get close to these points that my cursor gets a little dot by it, representing what we are going to change. So here it's got a red dot. So if I were to click it now, I would select that endpoint and I could move it around. Here I would select one of the nodes and I could move it or modify it. So we are going to come over here and use this one right up here in the corner, and I'm going to get right over it, but you can see I don't even have to get right over it as long as that blue dot is lit up there. And I'm going to right click on it. So for the rest of today, if I say right click, I mean to right click with the mouse. If I just say click, that just means to click. So I've right clicked on it, and I'm going to come down here to this item right here called split line, and I am going to click it. So I'm left clicking that. And when I do that, it split that single run into two separate runs. So I've got part of it here and now part of it here. And what we want to do is we want to delete this part of it. So if I click it here in the sequence view, I've got this part of that run selected. And if you look close, you can actually see it's a double run. We're actually going to get rid of one of the two of the runs. And we're going to do that by coming up here to our cut icon and click it to delete that piece. And you can see that now it's gone. Now what we want to do is we're going to come up here to the very top item in our decor, which is this level right here, and we're going to right click on it. And when we do that, we're going to get another menu that opens up, and I got a lot of different options here. The one that we're going to be concerned with right now is this second one from the top called Hide Other. Since I've right clicked on the decor, if I click Hide Other now, it's going to leave my decor intact. But before I click it, look, you can see there's these little eyeballs here along all these items. That says all these items are not only visible, but I can modify and change them. If I click Hide Other, everything else is going to now be hidden or be invisible. They're still there, but they're just temporarily hidden so that we can work on this design without being distracted with the rest of those items. And you can see the one that I right-clicked on, since I hid everything else, it is still visible. So what we want to show you now is why we want to change this decor to stitch out a little bit differently. To do that, we're going to use a tool called the Slow Redraw tool, or the Stitch Simulator. And it's right here. It's on by default. And we are going to use these little controls right here to play this to simulate sewing, just like it was a sewing machine. And when I click it, you'll see that the design is going to start over here with the first bit of underlay. So I'll go ahead and click it and let it start sewing. So you can see it started over here. And now it's sewing out all the items. So it's going along pretty cool. But you can see this last satin started way over here. And it's going to come and sew this little other piece of the curly Q on the satin. And our design is going to end right here. And what we really want to happen is we want it to start and stop in here, because we're going to add more of them around. And we don't want to keep jumping and cutting in between the various flourishes. We want to have a contiguous set of stitching, and the way we're going to achieve that is to move our start and stop points all in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some changes to this flourish, and we're going to start by altering the stitch out order. So we're going to come down here, scroll all the way down in our sequence view, and click on the last item. On the 9th item. So I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is this run right here. And we are going to, again, modify that by clicking our Shape tool. So I'm going to come over here and click my Shape tool. And you can see that it starts here kind of in the center, which is okay for this run because it basically started where this satin stopped, which was very cool for the whole design. Since we're going to change it, that's no longer going to work for us. We're going to start out by splitting this underlay into 2 pieces, and we're going to do that by going right over this start point here. Again, we're going to right click, and we're one more time going to click Split Line. So now we've got this underlay split into 2 different pieces, and what we're going to do now is we're going to delete some of the items that we don't need. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to the bottom. We want to select the 5th item from the bottom. So we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is this next run. It's this run under here. And we're going to also select the last item at the same time. The way we're going to do that is hold down the Control key. And I apologize, you can't see me doing it, but I'm holding down Control, and then I'm going to left click on the last item, so you can see I've got these 2 items selected. And this last little run here, it looks really big here in the sequence view, but you can see it's just this little lock stitch over here that we really don't need. So we're going to delete this little piece of the underlay, and we're going to delete this one. And don't worry, there's another piece of underlay under here, so we're not getting rid of all of our underlay. And we're going to delete both of those by clicking our cut icon. So when I do that, I've now got rid of both of those. So what we need to do now is we need to scroll our sequence view back down, and we need to take this satin path here, and it needs to be at the bottom. So we want to have this run, this satin path, and then this satin path. So we have a couple ways we could do that. I could simply click it and drag it down on top of this last item, and when I let off the mouse, it's actually going to go underneath. There's another way to do it, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to scroll back down. I'm going to show you another cool way to do it, and that is to right-click on it. And since it's the last item in the entire sequence, I can come up here to my Move command, and I can move it to last. All right, so it's going to move it all the way down to the bottom. So either way you want to do it will work fine. So the stitch out order is now in the correct sequence, but some of the items we need to actually change the start and stop points on. So we need to change it for this run right here, and we need to change it for that satin. So let's do the run first. So I've selected the run in the sequence view, coming back to my Shape tool, and now we're going to play not with the points, but with the start and stop points. So we actually want this to be reversed. We actually want it to start stitching here. We want to end stitching over here. So I'm going to take my stop point and I'm going to actually just kind of slide it out of the way for a second. So I'm just moving it along for a little bit. Then I'm going to take my start point and I'm going to drag it all the way over to the beginning. Now you can see as I drag those, they follow the line. So I don't have to be super precise with my dragging. It all kind of happens automatically. And I'm going to, again, move this stop point all the way out to this end. So now the start and stop points are correct for that one. I'm going to come over to my sequence view. I'm going to select the last item, which is our last satin path. And I'm again going to click the shape tool. And I'm going to move the start and stop points. And again, I want to start right here. I want to stop right here in the center. And I need this particular satin to start right here, which is where this one ends. So I'm going to take my start point and I'm going to drag it all the way up to that corner right there. And I'm going to take my stop point and I'm going to move it all the way out to this point right out here. And so once I've done that, my decor will now stitch correctly. So let me actually show you that. Let me select the decor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it one more time for you. And you'll see that it now started right here. And it is going to stitch out now just exactly the way we want it. So it's going to run all the way out to the end over here. And then it's going to run all the way back into the beginning here and end right here, which is where our next decor is going to start stitching. So that all works out perfectly for us. What we need to do now is we need to get our properties box back. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to collapse this guy. And what we want to do is we want to get our properties box back. And the way we do that is we come over here to this icon, which is our properties box. And this also turns the properties box on and off. But when I click it, since it's off, it's going to turn it back on. And you can see now that our properties box is back. What we need to do now is we need to show everything again because we've hidden a bunch of stuff. So to get them to show, we're simply going to right click in the properties box and click, the sequence view and click show all, and everything is going to come back. Now if I double click my magnifying glass, which again is a shortcut for zoom to fit everything on the screen, now I can see my decor along with the rest of the block. So what we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate the decor. So I'm going to come back over here to my sequence view and I'm going to click on the decor to select everything in that decor. And I'm going to make a copy of it. And the way I'm going to do that is come up here to my copy icon and click it. And then I'm going to click my paste icon. And don't panic, you've actually got two decors right on top of each other. You can't see them, but trust me, they're there. You'll see them in just a second because what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the top one, the one we just pasted in, 45 degrees from the one that's underneath. Now there's two different ways to do that. If you have My Decorative Quilter, you will see these two icons and they'll just look like rotate icons, and those are your 45-degree rotate icons. If you have Total Quilter, which I'm actually using here, you'll see an extra set of 90-degree icons, and your 45 will be designated with 45. So what we want to do is we want to rotate this 45 degrees once. So I'm going to go ahead and click that icon, and you can see it's going to rotate it. Now we need to get it aligned with the other decor. So to make that easier, I'm going to come back up to my zoom percentages. This time I'm going to drop down and click 400%, and it's going to zoom in. And I'm going to take my cursor and hover it over this design that's selected. And when it turns into the hand, that tells me that I can click my mouse and drag. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click my mouse and drag. And I'm going to line this decor up with this decor that's already there. And I'm going to use that run stitch down there at the bottom, or that outline down there at the bottom that you could see. I'm going to line it up with that point right there. If you wanted to, you could line it up like this. You can line it up any way you want in here. I'm going to use this one because I think it looks nicer that way. But just whatever you do, remember what you did, because you're going to want to repeat that same position as you go around the circle. So I'm going to use that one and let off. and that's going to put it right there for me. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to come back over to my sequence view. I'm going to scroll back up, and when I click on the decor at the top here, I've selected both of them, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of both of them. So I'm going to click copy, and I'm going to click paste. So now I've got 4 decors, 2 on top of 2. Now I want to rotate these 90 degrees. All right, so I have a choice. If I have my decorative quilter, I need to click 45 twice. If I have total quilter, I can click 90 once. So that's what I'm going to do. Click 90 once, and now they're rotated 90 degrees. Now what I want to do is zoom in again to 400%, and I am going to wait till I get that hand, and I'm going to drag that, and again I'm going to position it right where I did the first one, just like that, and let off, and now I've got half of my decors in. So I could keep doing that all the way around, but I'm going to again use a shortcut because I've already got 4 in there. I'm just going to click all 4 by clicking the top item in my sequence view here of the decors, and I'm going to do copy and paste one more time, and now I need to rotate 180 degrees. So that's 4 clicks of the 45 degree right, or it's 2 clicks of the 90. So this time we'll do 4 clicks of the 45. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time I'm going to zoom into 400%, and I'm going to wait till I get the hand, and I'm going to click and drag this one down into position, and it's going to line up perfectly just kind of right there. And when I let off, oh, I didn't get it quite right. Let me move it just a little bit. Let me come back a little. Okay, so I've got that kind of perfect little octagon in there in the center. That tells me I've got everything nice and aligned. And however you want to do it, again, if you don't want that little hole in the center, then just make them a little bit closer together when you position them. All right, so we've got our new decors in place. And what we want to do now is we want to center them. So in order to see them all, I'm going to double click my magnifying glass so we can zoom out and we can see them. And I'm going to come over here, and I am going to come all the way up to the top of my decors, and I'm going to select the top level, which again is going to select all 4, and we want to center them in the middle of the design. Now when we load in a design like this, we start by opening it, it ended up automatically right in the center, so 0, 0 on our rulers. This one we kind of created in a semi-random position, and we're going to use the fact that this one came in the center to center this one to this one. We're going to use our align icon to do that. So I'm going to click my alignment tool, and I'm going to come over to the next to last item, which is center to rulers, and it's going to center that decor for us right in the center of this design. The last thing we need to do now is we need to resize this decor so it fills our open space a little bit better, and we're going to do that in our properties box. We're going to come over here and click our transform tab, and for this we want to make sure that we are in inches. Normally when we transform something, we have maintain aspect ratio checked. Since this could be a little bit off in height and width, but we want it to be exactly the same in height and width, we're going to turn off maintain aspect ratio. So you want to uncheck that before you do anything. And we're going to change our width and our height to both 3.75. So I'm going to type in 3.75. I'm going to do that in the second one. I'm going to type in 3.75. Sorry for that little extra little pop-up that comes up sometimes. And I'm going to click apply, and that is going to change our size of our decor to fill out our space much better. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to save this block. Now, real importantly, just like we've taught you in all the other lessons, you don't want to come up here and automatically click the save icon. If you do that, you're going to overwrite basic block for BLM, and we're going to continue to use this throughout our series, so you don't want to overwrite that. Instead, what you want to do is you want to come over here and click File, Save As, and you want to navigate to some place you want to keep it. Now, the best place to do that is probably in the June 2016 folder, which is going to be under MDQ projects. You want to find the June folder, and here's my June 2016 downloads, and you want to call it Decor Block 8 of 12.waf. Now there's already one in there named that. You can overwrite that if you want with your new block, or you can call it something else. So let's do that. I'm going to call it my Decor Block 8 of 12. And I'm going to, whoops, I misspelled decor. Hold on a second. I'm going to take the S out, and I'm going to click Save. And that's going to save our master file, which is our WAF file. You always want to save your master file. And the last thing we need to do is we need to actually save this in our machine format, because machines can't stitch that WAF file. So we want to go, once again, come to File, Save As, and you want to save this as my Decor Block 8. So we'll change this one. We'll just call this one Decor Block 8 of 12, and we're going to change our file extension from WAF to whatever your machine format is. So for example, I could pick the Janome format and save that in the JEF format, and now that would stitch out on my Janome machine. Obviously, if you've got something other than a Janome machine, you want to save it in whatever format makes sense for your machine. So that completes the software section of this month's webinar. Let's go ahead and bring up our PowerPoint again, and we'll take a look at the construction details. So you've seen these first couple slides, so we'll just click right past those. And let's go over the materials that you're going to require for this month's block. So you're going to need some Floriani quilted soft bamboo cotton blend batting or Floriani embroidery batting, your choice. You're going to need some Floriani nylon no-show mesh stabilizer. You're going to need some embroidery and bobbin thread, and for the embroidery or top thread, you want to choose colors that work well with your fabric choices. You're going to need some R&K embroidery perfection tape. That's the pink tape. And you're going to need a minimum 6-inch by 6-inch or 150 millimeter by 150 millimeter hoop size. The fabric that you're going to need for this month's block is basically the same base fabric we've been using all along. You're going to need 4 5.5-inch squares of batting. You're going to need, for fabric A, you're going to need 4 4 3/8-inch squares for the center. You're going to need, for fabric B, you're going to need 4 4-inch squares, and you're going to cut those in half diagonally for the corner triangles, at least half of them anyway. And for fabric C, you're going to do the same thing, but with a different color fabric. So 4 4-inch squares cut in half diagonally for our corner triangles. The quantities that I've described here, they're for all 4 blocks, and you're going to end up making 4 of these blocks. If you want to see the complete project fabric list, we gave you an info guide. It was included with the November 2015 download, so you'll want to go to that folder and take a look at that. Before we embroider, it's important to note that some or most of the color changes in this design are there to make the machine stop between the steps. That's so you can take the hoop in and out, put your fabric down, flip your fabric over, etc. It's up to you. You can change the thread when the machine tells you, or you can leave the thread in. It's up to you. But if you have a multi-needle machine, it's important that once you load in the design, you go into your machine controls and you insert those reserve stop commands to make sure the machine stops between the colors when you want it to, because you know a multi-needle wants to just go ahead and pick the next color and keep on stitching, and that won't work for this particular design. So you're going to have to, in your embroidery machine, insert those reserve stops. If you have a single needle machine, the machine's going to stop automatically because there's color change. So let's go ahead and embroider the design. You want to load in Decor Block 8 of 12 into your machine. Hoop up a piece of Floriani nylon no-show mesh. Get it nice and tight. Attach the hoop to the machine and stitch out the first color, which will be the placement line for your batting. The machine will stop, and then you want to place the square of batting within those placement lines. You want to secure the corners with embroidery perfection tape and stitch out the next color, which will be the placement lines for the fabric. Next, you want to center fabric A within the lines right side up, and then you want to place your fabric B triangles also along the placement lines, right sides down on the center of the fabric so they overlap like you see here in the picture. And then you want to stitch the next two colors out, which will tack down the triangles and be the seams for that part of the block. Next, you want to press open those two corner triangles and place your fabric C triangles on the opposite corners, again right sides down and centered on the fabric. Then you want to stitch the next two colors to tack them down, and you want to press those open. At this point, you want to remove the embroidery perfection tape, change the top thread to the color that you intend for your quilting stitches if you haven't started out with that color. And then you want to go ahead and stitch out the next color, which is going to stitch out our quilting stitches. The next color, and again you can change the thread or not, is going to be for your cutting guidelines. And then lastly, you want to change the top thread color for the color of your decor. Stitch that color out so it stitches out the decor. And then you want to go ahead and remove the block from the hoop. You want to trim the block to 6 inches square, and you want to probably use a 6-inch square quilting ruler for that. The new Alex Anderson Quilter Select Quilting 6-inch block ruler is really great for this. So just kind of center it over using those stitch lines as a guide, and then use your rotary cutter to trim the block to 6 inches square. And then you want to repeat this entire sequence 3 more times to make a total of 4 complete blocks. And so that's it. That's the end of the construction details and the end of our webinar today. We want to thank everybody for attending. I hope that you'll use this video along with the printed PDF instructions to recreate this project at home. And we really hope you'll come back next month for the next installment of the series. And we also don't want you to forget to post your block progress on the Floriani Embroidery Facebook page, because we're going to be giving out some fabulous prizes at the end of this sequence of 12 blocks for the people who have the best looking blocks along the way, and of course the best finished quilt at the very end, just like we did with our last series. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to DJ, and again I want to thank everybody for coming.
Thank you, Mark, and we do look forward to seeing you next time. And like Mark said, please do not forget to post images of your progress on the Floriani Facebook page. And until next time, we'll see you later.